What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Snap on Ego. My name is Brad, otherwise known as Bradsver, and I am joined by, of course, Chris Bootman. I guess underneath me, the structure is currently all messed up because we have a special guest today. Hi, Drew.
Hey guys,
Welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
So we have Drew over here. You might know him as Drewberry, which I think is a fantastic name. It makes me very happy to say. Drew, tell us about yourself for people who aren't familiar with you. Hopefully we have your entire audience flooding Chris's channel right now, trying to get a little extra taste of that Drewberry. Where are you coming from and what do you do?
Just YouTube stuff pretty much. We're streaming on YouTube. We're making videos. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff. The custom cards, talking about new cards, data mines. Just trying to cover everything Snap really, and then lately we've been doing a little bit of science. We're doing some science videos and just interesting interactions in Snap, just quick little shorts that have been fun. So yeah, just all kinds of YouTube stuff. That's where you can find me, and just really loving the Snap community. I've been in the game since beta. I don't even know. I wasn't like the first batch, but I was in a pretty early wave. So I've been riding this Snap wave since summer, and it's been a great time.
Yeah.
Yes. So here's the thing. So Drew did not do a decent enough job selling himself. Drew is one of my favorite channels. He has the most interesting, creative content. I love the custom cards that he gets his community to do. And they make you some sick art. Like, you got some crazy designers. They'll, design some, 3D stuff. But, yeah, it's one of my son's favorite series, too. He'd be like, oh, Dad, did you see this one and stuff? So, and then it makes me, want the cards. But do me a favor, too. I saw you mention it on Twitter. What's this Snap Science thing? Because I've been kind of getting interested in testing things and stuff like that. Got to make sure we don't cross wires and whatnot. So what's the Snap Science thing all about?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I appreciate that. The custom cards are unreal, dude. The quality that the community has been making. I just said, let's just make some custom cards and I'll feature them. And then they just took it to the next level and the next level, and it's crazy. But so Snap Science is just these quick little minute videos where there's a lot of interactions in Snap that maybe people are familiar with, but it's not the most obvious or most intuitive thing. And there's no history log either in Snap. So it happened, and then you're like, what happened? I see it on Reddit all the time, right? How did this board state occur? And then it gets explained because X happened or whatnot. So I'm just trying to, because battle mode is out, I can play against a friend, and we I have a lab partner, you could say, and we kind of curate decks so that certain interactions can take place. And then I'm just kind of showcasing a few of those. Lately we did some Kang things. One of the more interesting ones, I don't know if you knew this, but if you play Bast and it hits Red Skull goes to 3 power, right? So you play your Red Skull and your opponent's laughing at you and they probably snapped and think they're going to win cubes. Then on turn 6, if you play Luke Cage, it'll go back to that 15 power.
What?
So it's a nice little surprise switch. Yeah, wow. Exactly.
Get out of here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, time out. So you're telling me, I'm actually confused by that a little bit. So that kind of, we've seen Luke Cage pop up in Cerebro 3 decks, right? So if you play Luke Cage and you have a Cerebro 3 deck, is just to be that extra kind of counterbalance to negative locations, stuff like that. Does that mess up Wasp or Cerebro or Mystique if you hit them with Bast too then? Would that work the same way? They go to 0?
Well, no, not quite, because he will never reduce power from your cards. He only makes sure that they don't have their power reduced.
So it's only if they went down.
Oh, you're right. I got it backwards. You're right, because Red's going from 15 to 3. Yep. Completely got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Buffs or anything like that, they'll be fine. Yeah, it's really interesting. I actually ended up making a deck that did kind of okay. It's pretty memey because you need that combination. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you, nobody expects it. If they see a 3-power Red Skull coming out, it's like an instant snap from the opponent. It's pretty funny too. Yeah. And you layer that on with a hazmat combo, and it's a good time. But yeah, that's basically Snap Science in a nutshell. I only just started it last week, but it's been pretty fun. I'm enjoying it.
Let me ask you this: as someone who loves from my old Magantress deck that I was playing, have you pinned down how Captain Marvel goes last to win the game compared to other cards? Because I was debating with someone in my Discord about it. Is it based on which card was laid down first? For example, if I lay down Captain Marvel turn 5, then I lay down Mysterio turn 6. will Captain Marvel not go because of the Mysterio, or does it matter which order those go into? Because somebody said, a dev said, like, it is certain cards, like the priority and not the turn. Have you figured that out yet?
Really? Okay. Well, thank you for the fodder for maybe a future Snap Science vid, because that's a pretty interesting interaction. My initial thought is she's gonna, because Mysterio's going to happen at the end of the game. He's going to reveal his power. I think if she was played prior to that on that turn 5, I would imagine she'd perform her check first, and then the Mysterio reveals. Like, I've seen it where there's multiple Captain Marvels. I play a Captain Marvel on 5. I play one on 6. 5 is going to do its check. 6 is going to do its check. But that also, I mean, another factor to that is it checking from left to right based on where the cards are on the board? Truthfully, I don't even actually know that interaction, but that's a really good one.
There you go. I just gave you some content, baby. Like, all I know is, and like, I don't know if there's an unpopular opinion, but the way Captain Marvel reads, I think she should go last above everything else. I don't care if there's a Dracula on the board, Mysterio. Hers is the only text that says if it wins the game. Done. That's it. Right. So I think she should go last. That's it.
And she should talk with her other self, her variant self, or whatever else. There should be a communication and figure out a win there, because sometimes they're pretty dumb.
Exactly.
I always thought that Mysterio went last after Captain Marvel, no matter what. Like, it feels like he does. Like, even like because I see someone play like Mysterio early, like in a regular, like, you know, Patriot deck or like Destroy deck even, and if I'm playing Captain Marvel, it feels like I can't remember exactly. But like I have like the faint memory of like Captain Marvel going before Mysterio reveals, because she doesn't check. Because I remember the complaint being she doesn't check to see which Mysterio is the real one, right? So she might go to that Mysterio lane, and then he reveals, and he's like, "Ha, I gotcha," kind of thing.
Well, yeah, that's actually an interesting note, because another thing that we did, the very first one I did, was how Zero interacts with Mysterio, and it's really odd. If you play Zero and then you play Mysterio in the mid lane, Zero is going to silence the leftmost clone. So the Mysterio in the middle will retain its 4 power. But let's say you play Zero and then you play Mysterio on the left with 0 at that left location, it'll silence the real one, and it won't have 4 power at the end of the game. It'll be 0 power, just like the illusions.
I don't like
Isn't
that.
that whack?
That's weird.
Isn't that crazy? It's based on the side of the board that it's playing. So it's proceeding from left to right, the 0 silence, which was just really odd to me.
I guess that makes sense, because technically, I mean, all the Mysterio and the clones come down at the same time, but they have to come down in a sort of order, being left to right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I still don't like it, but I get it.
Yeah.
I understand it.
So that's how Snap Science was born. It was just like the game doesn't tell you these interactions, but they're going to happen in your game, and it's going to throw you off. So I was like, what is a really quick way to just show people some of these interactions so that if it does pop up, they'll know for the better. That was the idea.
Yeah. Okay, well, the one thing I wanted to get into was the first thing being, let's just talk about the overall meta of Snap, how we feel about it, how what your experience is on the ladder, what we're going against. I have the Marvel Snap Zone tier list pulled up just as a quick reference. Tier 1 is listed as Lockjaw, Thanos, and Shuri Zero. Tier 2 is a bunch of decks being Zabu, Sarah Control. I already have complained enough about these fucking names. Name them something better, please. But whatever. Thanos, Ongoing Zoo, Electro Sandman Ramp, Lockjaw Thor, Galactus, and then a bunch of other stuff for the rest of the tier list I'm not gonna get into. So how do you guys feel about the overall meta? Do you think Thanos and Shuri are too strong? I find it really funny, personally, that Thanos is suddenly the scapegoat of like all of Snap at the moment, when like just 3 weeks ago, everyone thought it wasn't even close to being the same power level as Galactus. That's weird to me, right?
Yeah.
But, so, Chris,
I'll pass it to Drew. Drew, what's your experience?
Oh, you're gonna veto yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that for now. I want to hear Drew's opinion.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's definitely, in my eyes, it's the top 2 is the Shuri Zero and the Thanos. All kinds of Thanos though. I couldn't even pinpoint it to one. In fact, I just had a friend who hit Infinite. They shared a deck list with me, and it's running. I'm calling it, if you're familiar with Hearthstone, I'm calling it Wallet Warrior, okay? Because it's got Thanos and Galactus. It could even run Kang if you wanted. It's got all the big, expensive cards in there. It's got Null. And it's crazy because people don't see it coming. You start playing the stones early, and then it's like Galactus all of a sudden out of nowhere. And actually, it works really smoothly with the Time Stone helping ramp into Galactus. You get the Destroy package to discount the death. You play the Null for a crazy amount of power. It actually works really well. I'm not a very high rank, but I went from 70 to 80 last night in like the span of 2 hours rocking this deck. It was wild. So I just feel like, okay, so I don't know if Thanos warrants a nerf or a change or anything like that, but I do feel like he's quite powerful, and also just being one of the big bads, not many people have him, and yet I'm still seeing him so much on ladder. I feel like if he was available to the mass public, it'd be even more of a problem. And it's not him as well. I'm sure you guys know that and agree that it's the stones, right? It's the stones. I actually, the few that I look at specifically is the Time Stone, giving that ramp into Lockjaw so you can start your cycle too early. And then also the Space Stone, because I think being able to either move Lockjaw to another location and you keep doing the cycle, or you move one of your big cards that came out of the cycle to a different location. Those just feel a little bit too crazy for their value being one cost. And then, Shuri Zero is just nuts. But that one, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that one ends up getting like, it has a little bit more counterplay to it sometimes. Obviously not, but like Cosmo, Shang-Chi, that kind of thing. So Thanos is just, it's a tough one to come by. What do you think?
Yeah, no. So this is something I've been talking a lot about with my Discord. I even made like a little channel to discuss these things I want to test, because I just tweeted about it. It's actually getting a lot of interaction, so I need to read it later. Because I'm like, what's making the Thanos deck so strong? Is it Leech or is it Thanos? Right? Because that's what people are talking about. But kind of like what Drew was just saying, you have these stones. But the other question I have is it the interaction of the stones with Quinjet that's really making it a problem. Because I think it's kind of crazy. I think it's kind of crazy that you pop down a Quinjet, all the stones are now 0 because they were added to your deck. I think that should cancel out. I just don't think that should be a thing, even though that's the deck I was using to get to Infinite. I think that's a little much. Yeah. But then it's like, okay, so if the ramp into like Leech to play the early Leech, I don't feel like that's something that you can argue, because it's like, I don't know what I'm hitting with Leech, right? Because what if I Leech early, but you didn't draw any of your good cards? How many games have we played where we don't draw our good card until the 5th, 6th turn, right? So if you Leech early, it's like, is that it? And could I play a different deck with like a Psylocke in the Leech, right? Or an Electro in the Leech? Would it be just as good? So I'm leaning towards Quinjet and the stones being part of the issue there. But like Brad was saying too, like nothing's changed, right? The 3 power they gave to Thanos isn't much. I played hundreds of games with Thanos and I still barely dropped him. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's it. But how did this deck go from being like a mid-tier kind of deck to being like, oh my God, it's so overpowered? Did we just finally figure it out? So I don't know. I will say this. The reason I get skeptical about all these like tier lists and everything is because this season was pure hell for me, hitting Infinite. I usually do it in a week. This one, I just hit this last week. And I was using Shuri Zero. I was using the Thanos deck. And like, I figured these decks out and it was still rough for me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, even though this is what people are hitting Infinite with, I feel like there are other decks that we're not paying too much attention to that might be doing half decent. I still think Deathwave's pretty good. People play Deathwave against me. If I don't have the right cards, I'm screwed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think, Brad?
I am of the opinion that, and I've said this both in the recent video I did, also in like, did you see Cozy's thread of like, what's the snap opinion you have that the swords your face thing? I think people ask for nerfs way too much. And it's everyone's immediate panic button hit when they see a deck or a particular card performing well. And one thing I talked about, like when I talked about Arrow being an issue, and I still think she is, but I think the main issue with Arrow is the fact you can't play around her. Like the randomness of her pulls. If you play 4 cards on turn 6, like if you're like a Sarah 2 deck or something like that, right? And especially with Hitmonkey around the corner, but we'll get to that later. But if you play that kind of deck and you're like, okay, they're going to arrow this lane. I want to play 2 cards there, fill it up or whatever, or something. Or maybe you can only play enough to like fill up 3 slots and you have one's going to get pulled. You're trying to organize it to where like you want to make sure that that last card that you play is the one that can win you. Like if you play like the Hit Monkey or whatever. And then she's like, nope, Hit Monkey's going over there. And you're like, well, what the fuck? I tried playing around this. Something as simple as changing that. But going back to like other things, like with the regular nerf conversation, it's just too much of the default. And I find it both annoying and disheartening because not to say the second dinner looks at Reddit or stuff like that, but though they have said that they read people's comments way more than that we think they do, a couple times in Discord. But like, imagine if they get far more influenced by this kind of thing, because player enjoyment is that secret sauce that people don't talk about when it comes to balance changes to all card games. Like Magic was one a couple years ago in Standard. There was this combination of Cat Oven where you just kind of like, recycle this, Cauldron Familiar and just ping your opponent over and over again. Wasn't super strong, good card, fun deck, but it had a lot of clicks, took up a lot of time on Arena because the way the client was made. So they banned it in Standard because people hated playing against it. Not because it was good, but because people hated it. So player enjoyment is a big part. So if we get to this point of second dinner being like, people aren't enjoying the game, we're seeing like numbers dip or whatever, and we start changing cards that don't necessarily need to be changed because people aren't experimenting enough. These 1 month, like once a month patch note kind of thing is great in one way, but awful in another way because I know they get more data than we do, but it feels like it's not enough data to definitively say X card is too strong, has to be drastically changed, like a la Leader, for example. And I don't like the way Leader was changed. I don't think the card was in a good spot, but he's worthless now, right? Like, who plays him? Yeah. Name how many times in the last month you've seen Leader on ladder. I can count on one hand, and I'll still have 4 fingers left over.
Like when we're playing the raft, and someone just like, "What the heck? Where did this go from?"
Yeah,
but yeah, that's about it.
So yeah, it's just a concerning worry thing for me, more so about the overall state of Snap in terms of its health, as opposed to like just play some more decks, and especially if we ever get a real pro scene, like an actual competitive like esports kind of thing, like Hearthstone or Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, any of these other card games. We'll be able to have so much more tools to work with to actually look at how good cards are. And I guarantee you there are decks that exist right now that people think are kind of mid, like they did Thanos 4 weeks ago, that they're actually the broken decks when pro players get their hands on things and have incentive for money to actually figure out the best deck.
Yeah. For sure. No, I was gonna say I want to hear Drew's opinion, because Drew, like people like you and Binks, you experiment a lot with different decks, and like, do you think that certain cards are broken and you can't like even experiment much because they're too powerful? Like what are your thoughts on this, and especially what Brad's saying too? Like, do you think we're going after the nerfs too much, or we're not experimenting enough?
Yeah, it's interesting because you kind of get punished sometimes when you experiment and it doesn't really pan out. And there's this because you want this deck to work, it should work on paper, and then it doesn't because whatever matchup. And I think so to play slightly devil's advocate just on the nerf topic here is that I do agree with that sentiment of just nerfs, they kind of hurt cards. They also are impactful in Snap compared to other card games because of the token investment that a lot of players are putting into these cards, and then having them nerfed, and that causes outrage in the community. But the other thing I would say is that it does freshen the game up to a point. I feel like we've had so many new cards released into the game, but because of the inaccessibility of those cards, it usually doesn't change much. A new card comes out, it's the same meta as yesterday. It doesn't really matter. Whereas when the balance changes happen, I find that actually all of a sudden some decks rise, some decks fall, and there's actually a shift, and it can be a little bit more spicy, a little bit more interesting. So not too many, not too often, but I think they're still warranted every now and then. Like the 1 month has been kind of okay in my opinion. What I think is the bigger problem I was kind of mentioning is the inaccessibility of those cards. Like if new counters were released for these top meta decks, they will actually never find their true potential because by the time they're accessible to the public, those decks will have rotated out in the meta, or the balance changed or nerfed or something like that, right? So like Shadow King might have been a really good option against some popular deck. I don't even know. But we'll never know if he actually had his moment to shine unless it's like months later and there's a new deck that he can counter, because like when he was released, nobody got him and nobody could afford him, and we'll never really know. So like, I feel like that is a huge problem. And then going back to Boot, what you were saying about experimenting with decks, is there some crazy decks out there? I mean, you said it yourself. Nobody knew about this Thanos deck until like 2 weeks ago? It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I played a lot of Thanos too, and I thought, it's okay, but I don't think it's that good. And now it's like 5 different types of Thanos decks are at the top of the meta right now, and it's just like, okay, well, I guess that's the new card. So, and then we were at the Creator Clash tournament, and it was Ordinary Harry who ran the Thanos deck and won the entire thing. And I was looking at that list, and I'm like, I don't feel like I've seen this before. Even D Money was running like a Agent Coulson, Agent 13, that kind of deck with the Dino, and he was doing well. It's a different scene, I know, compared to Ladder, but it just goes to show that there are those decks out there that can perform really well. But once, I feel like it's just card games, like once there's a few decks that maybe a few content creators or whatever say are good, everyone jumps on the bandwagon, everyone starts playing those, and it becomes a matter of, are you playing that deck or are you trying to counter it? And everything else is a little bit left behind. The experimentation has a hard time sneaking in.
Yeah, I think that's something, and I try to be mindful of it as a content creator. I think a lot of it is we content creators are a problem, right? Like we keep saying, this is the most powerful deck, this is the powerful deck, this is it. And it becomes that spotlight effect where everybody's looking at this and we're missing everything else. But then it develops this kind of learned helplessness where everybody's like, well, I don't have Thanos, so I just can't compete. I'm like, there's other stuff. Like, let me tell you guys, like Brad, you did that amazing coaching session with me. I was pinging so many people on Twitter like, hey, what are your tips for this Thanos deck? I got tips from so many different people, and it still took me freaking forever to get from 90 to 100 with the Thanos deck, right? So clearly there were other decks out there that were effective against me, right? But I don't think enough people are talking about them, experimenting with them enough. Like, I should have been writing down what decks were beating me, you know what I mean? But it does seem like with any strong deck, right? Like even Shuri, if you don't get Shuri, right, how powerful is just like your Red Skull and Taskmaster? You know what I mean? Like,
we saw that deck already, and it wasn't that great. Like before Shuri came out.
So, and playing Thanos, like we've run into those situations where you just don't get Quinjet, you don't get Lockjaw, and you're just kind of sitting there until turn 5, and you're like, okay, what can I do? So I don't know. I really want the community to get more creative and try things, but kind of like what you're talking about with Drew, the inaccessibility. It's kind of like I don't know. Just think about like a poor community, right? They don't have access to like good resources in their schools. Maybe we had the next inventor there, but they just don't have the stuff to create something. And that's kind of what it is with these cards, where someone might develop something really cool. That's why I ran that Shadow King contest. And I'm actually playing a lot of Shadow King right now to wrap up the contest. I don't think anybody's kind of figured out the right way to use Shadow King, but like Shadow King against Shuri, taking one of those double powered things back down. I used Shadow King on a Carnage earlier. Hilarious. They retreated. Took that full back down to 2 power. It was fantastic. But anyways, yeah, hopefully they work on the accessibility pretty soon.
That's so true. That surprise factor has to be one of the strongest things in Snap. When people don't see it coming, it's like, bam, I just won 8 cubes. And then you can maybe keep doing that on repeat. Like maybe it's a small pivot off of a meta deck, and then that's the different sauce that you need. That's what I'm kind of having with this Galactus Thanos. People are like, oh, he's playing Thanos. Of course, he's just going to fill the location. And then I have an empty location. They're not thinking to Cosmo it. They're not thinking to put anything there. Galactus, surprise, and they probably stayed in for a snap and 2 cubes. So, yeah, surprise factor is huge in Snap.
I know we talked about this. There was like a few weeks ago. Maybe it's not as that long ago. This is a construct. I can't keep track of anything. But we were going back and forth, Drew, on Twitter. We were talking about the thing of lack of availability of these cards, and I was saying if they release 3 new cards a month, right? It's about 3, right? It's the season pass and then 2 5 cost cards or series 5 cards, right? Or is it more?
Yeah, I think it's
3 series 5.
3 series 5.
Depending on how many weeks in the month. Yeah.
Okay. If we're gonna do 3 outside of the series pass, like we're getting what Kitty Pryde,
Master Mold.
Master Mold. Is there another one?
Negasonic Teenage Warhead is
perfect.
the other one, yeah.
All right, here we go. Negasonic Teenage Warhead. She's pool 3 on release. Master Mold, he's pool 4 on release. And whatever the fifth, the Kitty Pryde is pool 5 on release. They can figure out however way they want to do it. They can figure out which one is going to be pool 5, 4, and 3. It is not perfect. It still sucks because let's say you really want Kitty Pryde, like Drew does, and she's still going to be that Series 5 card, and he has to dish out 6,000, especially as a content creator, to be able to show her off. It still sucks. It's not perfect. There should be way more tokens in the game, something to make that more accessible or bump up the cash reserves percentage, whatever. But a great start would be make 2 of them out of the 3 far more accessible than they are on this timed release. And then instead of doing the timed release 1 week after another, because there's no reason for it. Who cares if this is the week that King comes out or next week is the week that, Negasonic comes out? It doesn't fucking matter because you're not getting the card anyway. No one has 18,000 tokens just lined up in their shop ready to go every single month. And if that was a possibility, like, they're not going to want to see that happen because they lose out money or whatever. But giving back a little bit to the community and the player base goes a long way of overall trust in your monetization process and, like, the design you have in mind of your game. And just make some of them accessible. Figure it out which ones you want, but give us something. Don't make them all Series 5 and just dump them all at once. Start of the month, here's your new Season Pass card. And then here's, all the other cards all at once. One's 5, one's 4, one's 3, and go from there. And then you can do the drops later on. Like, it's just, because, like, we got that initial drop, or not initial drop, but the initial release, right? We had She-Hulk, was Shuri in 4, or was she a 5 initially? She was 4.
She was 5.
Yeah, she was 5. Yeah, because I didn't get her forever.
We had like the agents like Coulson and stuff like that. We had She-Hulk. They were 4. If you've already shown us that you can initially give us Series 4 right off the bat, fucking do it. Like, why are we playing around with this?
Yeah. I'm curious. Like, have you thought about this, Drew? Like, what would make it more accessible? Like my thought is, I don't know about Series 3. I think maybe they'd feel like they'd lose too much money on that. But, like, Series 4, right? 3,000 tokens, I feel, is a lot different than 6,000, But what have you been toying around with in that brain of yours, Drew?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. I've commented on it quite a bit. I try to think of their side as well every time I think about this. And there's a few problems that they can't really back up on that they've already established. And that is that there is actually a Series 5. They have just led that there was a Series 4 for all new cards, then it would be easy and we could do that. But because Series 5 now exists, I don't know about staggering the releases. It sounds great. I would love it, right? Because it's going to be cheaper. But how do you decide one card should be Series 5 and one card should be Series 4?
How did they do in the first place? How did they do in the first place, though? And how did they do it when they designed pools 1, 2, 3 throughout the game in its entirety of its design? Because you look at some of the pool, like Sunspot is the most played card in the game. How'd you figure out that was a pool 2 card? How'd you figure out Drax was a pool 3 card? It feels like a pool 2 card or a pool 1 card. So I don't buy the whole thing of like they can't figure it out because they've shown that they can and they already have.
I don't think it's that they can't. I do believe that they can. And with the pool 1, 2, 3 situation, I think that I know people still have to pay money to get there, but it's not as heavy of a price tag to collect all of Series 3. It's more from playing games on repeat to collect those cards. So those are almost like your starter set. I know it's a lot of cards, it's a lot of time to get them, but that's essentially like what you can get as a free-to-play player. Mm-hmm. And then the Series 4 and 5 are what have those heavy price tags behind them. And, like... When it comes to, of course they can certainly do it, but the PR nightmare that I see if you stagger the releases in twofold. One, people complaining about their favorite card, the card they want, being the higher price tag and not the cheaper one. This game's trash. I'm not gonna stick around. Two, balance. What if, how do you decide Kitty Pryde might be really good and then she's locked away at a higher price tag and then only the whales can buy her and get her and then they're winning games. And I know what you're thinking probably because they're already all there, but because they're all there, I think it's okay. I want it to be cheaper. I want more ways to get tokens, maybe, so that people can actually acquire these cards. I feel
Put
like
them in the
maybe
season
those are the
pass.
steps we could take. So here's the thing. I don't know if you guys. I made a video on this. This is one of my thoughts that could maybe be a fair solution on all sides, and that is when the season pass comes out every single month. Instead of us being locked into one card, you take the season pass card. Let's say it's 4 cards total. It's season pass card plus the 3 cards, and you get to choose which one you get in your respective season pass, because. Then from a meta standpoint as well, everyone's diversifying their collections, which is something Team Second Dinner already is really passionate about, which I think is great. And then also as a player, I'm much more excited about that month coming up because the card that I really want, I'm going to get in my season pass. I'm going to spend that $15 because I'm excited for it. And there's that dopamine trip of, okay, maybe this season pass, I picked the wrong one, but next month, I'm going to get next month's season pass, and it's going to be a sick card, and I can't wait for that. And that just keeps going and going and going. And I feel like your season pass sales absolutely skyrocket. But then what drops off? Of course, there's the buying the tokens, getting the tokens, and maybe your Series 5. But those cards, the FOMO that's going to be out there from other people seeing those cards, people are still going to want those cards just as bad. I don't know how you do it technically because, cards still have to be released week after week. You couldn't have them all released at one time. So there's that issue, and I'm not going to ignore that. That is an issue. But I feel like this could be like a win-win for both sides. It gets you the card that you want. I don't know. That is just a random thought that I had.
Yeah, I get, and that's the thing too. I also get what Brad's saying too. Like they've already established a way to like kind of tier these things. But I do love that. I remember your video talking about being able to pick. But yeah, so like for example, when they announced right before King came out that he's going to stay a big bad, right? There is this thing. There's a couple things, right? Like first off, people know, okay, well, I might as well spend $6,000 because he's never coming down, right? But it is this kind of silent thing, even though Second Dinner would never say it. They're saying, we believe this is a good, strong card, so we're putting it here. And that's where it gets tricky, but I know what you mean, Brad. Like, they just kind of, like, picked already when we started up. Here's 1, 2, and 3. So, I don't know. I do think tokens being more accessible. I mentioned in the video I released this morning that I don't think we're giving enough props to Second Dinner on these bundles they're coming out with, these more affordable ones. They're experimenting with Token Tuesday. So, but still, right now, going back to the previous topic, a lot of people are just like, cool, I have a few more tokens closer to Thanos, right? And then we're going to get into a weird situation where it's going to take creators kind of hyping cards and stuff like that to get people to want to save up for those. So yeah, I don't know. Like token accessibility is a huge thing, but I do try to think about it from the standpoint of Second Dinner, them making money, them being profitable. They're like part of Disney, right? And Disney's like multi-bajillion dollars. So if anything's not making a huge profit, they're probably getting in trouble. So it's just tricky. But I had somebody on my podcast a month or so ago who works in the mobile gaming industry, right? And it sucks for us because I think the majority of players are these casual players who don't even know about us, right? They don't even know the YouTubers, the podcasts, the competitive scenes. They're just hopping on, they're playing for a few weeks or whatever, giving a little bit of money and then bouncing. And I think that might be a huge part of what they're considering. I don't like it, but it seems like that's what it is. But they are listening to us a little, so it's a weird situation, you know?
So I love the idea of picking your own season pass thing. I'm going to tell you they're never going to do that for one reason. They lose thematic.
Pessimist.
They lose their thematic. Every season pass, yes, they do. Okay, I'll give you an example. This upcoming one next month, Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Where does she fit in the theme? Truly,
X-Men universe.
Yeah,
it's not as perfect as you think, though. I feel like it does. They lose out on a bit of their thematic, and doesn't work as perfect as they want. And they really want a certain season pass card to be the dead set theme, and they want other ones to be locked behind a certain thing, especially if a Kang situation approaches again, where it's going to be that big bad, because then they won't want you to pick him.
I don't know about you guys. I watched a lot of X-Men growing up and stuff like that. I don't know who the fuck Nimrod is. All right? I never heard about this guy. So putting him in that season pass card,
Didn't Master Mold make him?
Did he? I don't know.
Pretty sure because Sentinel, he made Sentinel, right? Or Master Mold made all the Sentinels.
Yeah, but Master Mold better season pass card.
Would have been a way better season pass card. I agree. I think Nimrod should be a Series 4 card. I guess maybe. But I mean, it's no matter what way you approach it, whether it's the idea of letting them pick, one of any card you want, or dropping them down or having them start in lower series, second hitter theoretically loses money in their own eyes, no matter what way they cut it. And that's the biggest problem. If my worry is that they've already established this is the way they're going to do it. This is the way that they want to do it. They've established the way that credits are worth X amount when based on the bundles they give us. Tokens are worth X amount, and sometimes they'll give us a little bit better deal. Though I think tokens can maybe be skewed a bit more in the future. We're seeing that with again the upcoming bundles, the Token Tuesdays, things like that. But on average, we're seeing what $100 bundle is you get 3,000 tokens. So they're basically telling us that 3,000 tokens are $100, right? Or that pro bundle effectively gave you 250 collector levels and around 2,700 tokens on average, maybe 28 if you high roll really nicely. And that's kind of the value they're giving. So I'm worried that they're this is what it is, and we're not going to go back on that. Though I would be okay with wild cards being introduced. Put them in the caches. You get they go in the same way. For example, if you play Magic Arena, the same way that packs work in real life for Magic cards, there's rarities to the cards you pull, and there's rares and there's mythics. Mythics are basically your Series 5 cards essentially, and rares I guess are a combination of 3 and 4. They're short printing, stuff like that. But they have wild cards in Arena, and if you open a pack on Arena, you're I need to get this card. There's a chance that in that rare slot, instead of it being just in general a certain card, whether it's rare or mythic, you might pull a rare wild card or a mythic wild card in that same slot, and you can use that to craft a rarity of that choice. You get a rare wild card, you can go find a rare card in the collection and craft it. Same thing with mythics. They could do that where it's the same percentage. You're 0.5% for Series 5, 2.5 for Series 4, 22.5 for Series 3, but you just make one of them possibly a mythic instead of a specific card and let players go craft one.
So that's kind of a combination, right? Kind of then you would be kind of getting to pick a card.
Yeah, but they wouldn't lose money that way in their own eyes, I think. Right? It does kind of suck if you're the kind of person that pulls Shadow King or something like that as your Series 5 card, or even Sauron. You're I don't really care about Shuri. I don't like that kind of deck. But if you pulled a myth, I've seen that. I've seen people 1,100 collection level, and they're I got my first Series 5 card. I'm 52 something. I still haven't gotten one from a cache, but whatever.
Have you gotten one, Drew?
Nope.
Not a single one.
I'm close to 7,000. I haven't pulled a single.
There should be a
Series
pity
5.
timer on those.
Yeah,
there is, but it's ridiculous.
I thought it was confirmed there wasn't one for Series 5.
Really? I thought it was you need what is it, 4,000 additional? Oh, but you guys are way past 4,000 collection levels. You've never gotten one.
Well, so you got to think about when the token shop dropped. I was probably about 1,500 or so when the token shop dropped. I think.
And have you gotten one?
No.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Oh, okay.
So
you did, yeah.
I had Galactus pinned for a while, and then I was I don't want Galactus. And then all of a sudden, I got him, so I went out and bought Null. But yeah, so now I don't get to join in the complaints because I got my one, and I'm okay, cool. But let me ask you this before we move on to the next topic. With the new bundles and the availability of tokens and them being affordable, do you guys think we're going to see a more diverse array of cards coming in, or do you think people are just going to be saving up for Thanos? You know what I mean? I personally don't think anybody's going to be oh, sick, now I can get Dazzler, or Shanna, But there will be more tokens in the economy for people to get these things. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think they're just going to follow with the meta and just get the top cards. Unfortunately, I don't want to pigeonhole the community that way, but it just ends up being the case is that people want the good deck that a lot of people are talking about or seems to be at the top of the meta. So they're just I'll use my resources to acquire those cards, even if they get nerfed in a day or two, whatever, they just go for it. So I feel that's what they do but maybe Chris, you were saying earlier, there's so many casual players that don't watch us, don't do YouTube, whatever. They're just playing the game. like those people would probably go the creative route, or just based on the style of deck they like to play and pick up that card. I always find it interesting when I talk about the new cards coming up in a month to see how many people are interested in the ones that kind of seem a little bit weaker. A lot of people, even Dazzler, for instance, I had a few comments, people being hyped up for Dazzler. It's like, that's sick. I'm happy for you. That's great. Will it work out? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think
that's usually how it goes.
I think it's going to vary based on what the average rank of said person is. I feel like the sweatier you get and the more you care about rank, the more inclined you are to seek out tier list, videos of decks being played, what are the best decks, et cetera, et cetera. So those people be more likely to target the better cards. Like if you're like probably like that 60 to 80 range trying to like get a bit further up, I think those people will be like, I'm just going to save it for Thanos. But I feel like the ones that are way more casual and don't really care about snapping too much, or like don't really care about cubes, and they hover around that, 30, 40 range or even lower, they might be the ones more inclined to be like, yeah, Shayna sounds fucking sweet. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I really think cards like Shayna and Dazzler very well could be cards that have a chance to shine in a meta and be, really unique, interesting cards that can perform really well. Like the few times I've gotten some of them from like the hub and whatever, I'll be like, yeah, these are actually pretty sweet. I'd love to build a deck around this, but they get overshadowed by all these other cards in the same level. And that's like the main reason I want there to be, introductions of like, this is a Series 4 card, etc. And I know they won't do it, but very obviously Kang, Thanos, Galactus, the way that they perform, the way that they're played, they make sense in Series 5. And the other ones I feel like don't. Like Orca Orca should be a Series 1 card.
Yeah.
I really think, as one example.
I had one dude, the Raph gave him Shanna, and they had like Odin for some reason just in their deck already, and they Shanna, and then they Odin on top of it. They like completely caught me off guard. I'm like, see, that'd be cool if that happened a little bit more often,
like with Dazzler too, that'd be sick.
Yeah, it does. I will say this, like to round off the meta conversation, it has seemed a little boring lately, just running into a lot of the same decks. Like I get excited when I run into something different, even though I also get simultaneously pissed when it beats me because I'm not expecting it, but I like that variety, you know what I mean? But I guess that does parlay into our next topic about how are you guys feeling about the infinite situation? Like I just made a video this morning, so I don't know if you guys saw it, but they did announce that they are looking at ranked. They're going to have something with this patch. They have a blog coming out Monday. Do you guys have any predictions? What are your thoughts on ranked? I've talked about it plenty on my channel. Drew,
this is all you, because like I don't have much of an opinion on this.
Yeah, I've never been one to take my rank too seriously. There's only been a couple of months that I've actually tried to push, and then for the most part, it's like experimentation and stuff like that. So I don't know what I saw that tweet as well, and I'm curious as to what they're pointing the finger at for fixing. Like, are they talking about, like the infinite problem where people get to infinite and they don't care and it's kind of boring, and then they face bots if they're like, I saw somebody was like rank 1000, which is just insane, and they're only against bots because nobody else is up there, that kind of thing. Like that is a huge problem. Is it maybe in the lower ranks, maybe like fixing some of the AI or the bots, or like I don't know where their efforts are focused on fixing ladder. Maybe as well, I heard this suggestion that they're going to do like win streaks or something, so you get like a little bit bonus cubes if you're on a certain win streak. I know they did that in Hearthstone. You got like bonus stars if you struck together 5 wins. Don't know how they do that. Not suggesting it either. I just saw that thrown out there. So I'm not too sure. I'd like to hear what you think, actually, Boot, about these changes.
Yeah, like so yeah, I have so many thoughts. One of the things is, and I've talked about this, like when I tweeted about how the Code Deco boys hit 1,000, is I don't want our casual viewers, who even care about rank, to compare themselves to those people. Like, just know they're facing bots. It's rare that they face humans. It is still like an accomplishment because some of those bots are insane. But anyways, that's one of my concerns. But we're playing different games, right? Like I'm playing against a lot of humans who are watching all the top YouTubers and streamers using those decks. So yeah, it was rough for me this season. I truly think 99% of these problems will be solved if they just make an unranked mode. Just put unranked mode out there. Let us take a break, take a breath, because I don't know, man. Like, I don't know about you guys. But it seems like even when I'm like, I don't care about ranked, like just losing, just seeing it drop, it fucks with me. It gets in my head. Like if I drop down a tier, like then I stress out and stuff like that. But like Drew, I know some other content creators have said this. I've gotten it a couple times, but not as much as I would expect, where people like kind of judge you as a content creator and your opinion based on your current rank, you know? Yeah. So that's another thing. And I try to like let people know, like I love people who are experimenting with decks and just not taking it as seriously as I am trying to hit it, because I'm like, I wish I could be experimenting, but I'm so afraid of just dropping a rank, you know? So I think a casual, unranked mode, like battle mode just isn't doing it, right? Battle mode is not doing it. They need a casual mode where I could just hop in, queue up against people, and just dick around, try out new decks. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But other than that, like, it was challenging for me, but for other people they still hit infinite fairly easily. Or they're like using Galactus decks. I cannot get a Galactus win in my pool of players. It's just not happening. Yeah. But yeah, have you had any comments like that, Drew? Or like, because I know you made a video not long ago on it.
Yeah, wow. I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because I get that all the time. All the time. And I just, it's a bit of a bummer, because like in my opinion, and I said in that video, I just think to get to infinite, you just need a lot of time. You to learn the game as well, but also just to literally game those cubes, play that volume of games and climb back. It takes a long time, especially if you're starting 30 ranks down from the last season and you only got to 70, you're now at 40. Like that's a huge climb, 60 ranks. That's going to take you a minute. Anyways, and people just don't trust what I say. Like I'll talk about the new cards and my thoughts, and if I think they're going to be powerful enough. And I'm always getting those comments about like, oh, look at this guy, he's not infinite.
What a bunch of dicks. Let me say
all
that
the time.
Quick.
Yeah, I know. You get numb to it, right? As a content creator, you're just like, whatever, like another one. But yeah, I get that. And honestly, that's like the only fuel that I have in my body to get to infinite is I want to just get there so I can just flex shut those people up, and then just be like, okay, this is what I think about this card. You can't really say that anymore. It's not an excuse. Like, and I don't even think I'm all that good at all, really. But like, I think I know enough about the game to talk about cards and have an opinion that's educated, you know, based on the viability and the meta and all that kind of thing. So I think everyone's just dismissive. It's basically, are you infinite or are you not? And that's it.
Yeah.
And then another topic, I know, Boot, you've talked about this a lot. I have never, you can look back at all my videos, I have never, ever, ever put infinite in my title, infinite in my thumbnail, whatever. I have never done that because I have never gotten there. Yeah. And that is sadly, like, whether the community wants to admit it or not, that's what gets a lot of views. You see it all the time. So
yeah.
As a content creator, I kind of suffer because I can't get to infinite, and then I get all these haters and whatever else. So that makes me want to get there. But I think at the end of the day, if you're just playing the game and having fun, there's way too much stress. There's way too much FOMO. There's way too much pressure on getting to infinite when it just shouldn't exist. Like it's not that big of a deal.
It's really ridiculous. And Brad, you come from like the competitive Magic scene, so I'm curious your thoughts too. But like, so my background was in esports, right? I started in Counter-Strike 1.6. So I was one of the top analysts for this website, and I ended up coaching one of the best teams in the world. I fucking sucked at the game, right? But the strategy aspect, like my first person shooter reflexes just weren't up to par. But yeah, like, so I was able to gain respect in that way. And I'm like, what's the difference with this game, right? Like, and like I said, we need people out there who are willing to try and test new things and not be as sweaty as guys like me. Like, no, I'm only going to play the best decks, and if it's not getting me cubes, I don't want to fucking touch it. You know what I mean? Like, Drew, you went to the creator clash with a freaking deck your audience drafted. I'm like, what a gangster. What a gangster right there. Just zero fucks given, right? So yeah, and that's, I don't know. It's like a dick thing for like people in the comments to say that. When I was trying to hit infinite at the end of the season, I had one little asshole come up to me. He's like, have you ever hit infinite before? I'm like, mother, you know? But it is a weird way to compare. And I bought this little clicker on Amazon. I'm like, oh, I'll just see how many games. Took me like 2,300 games. You average 3 minutes a game. People are like, oh yeah, that's like 115 hours or something. Like, I'm a crazy person. Don't do what I just did, you know? so yeah, I think there is a little bit too much on Infinite. We need a casual mode to test stuff, but I don't know. How is that in your experience, Brad? And what are your thoughts like in our community with Infinite and how it gauges players? Like, do you suck, Brad? Are you terrible?
I am the worst Snap player to ever exist. Never listen to a word I fucking say.
See,
I am the absolute worst.
Right? You coached me. I got to Infinite with your teachings.
Okay.
Right?
Infinite is not an evaluation of how good of a player you are. If anything, it's an evaluation of your discipline with a snap mechanic, and that's it. Now, otherwise, players that hit Infinite, a lot of them are fucking phenomenal. KM Best is one of the best players I've seen. I've watched his streams. His thought process and how to understand it is very good. But at the same time, Binks, a player that has never hit Infinite, is also a phenomenal player. I've watched. But he also plays a lot of shit decks. Like, just like you, Drew. Like, it's fun to play bad decks, or theoretically bad decks, because, I mean, it's hard to be someone that brews and creates something that's just special in a card game. Doesn't matter what game it is. People who have that knack for like brewing, figuring out like new decks. Like, okay, coming from Magic, my favorite format is Pioneer. Pioneer was announced back in 2019, October. And when it was announced, they're like, okay, there's going to be no pre-ban list. It's from this set to this set. We'll have weekly ban adjustments and be able to like, say like, okay, this is way too fucking good. Let's get that out of here. And they're like, okay, have fun. And it was considered the wild, wild west of Magic. And seeing people come up with decks, especially when there was like Pro Tours going on and it was fresh in the format, and you're like, what the fuck? That should not be allowed. But people that figure that out are so gifted and they're so amazing. And that exists in Snap, but it doesn't mean you're an Infinite player. It doesn't have to mean that. You can be 60, stay there forever, and you could be the best player in the world when it comes to mechanics, thought process, and understanding how the game works in and out. The Snap mechanic completely changes the way this card game works, flipped on its head in comparison to any other game, and that's the thing. And especially if you're a content creator. Hey, Drew, is it fun when you have your opponent retreat before you get your really cool play of the deck you're trying?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the best. I just love that.
Doesn't your audience love not seeing the combo happen?
Yeah.
Are you going to climb effectively by getting 1 cube a time? I know, Boot, you talked about this a little bit, saying, like, if I just kept 1 cube a game for these 300 games that I played, right. I would have hit Infinite. But, if you're a content creator, of course you shouldn't hit Infinite as a content creator because, like, who fucking cares? Just have fun. Make entertaining content. It doesn't mean you're a bad player. You could still be the best player ever. The other thing is, my thing with Infinite, I think there's going to be a much better representation of who a really good, player is if you have different competitive modes. Like, give us a mode that does not have snapping whatsoever. You have to see the games through. Like, I would love to see that. And I know snapping is an integral part of the game, but more formats means more reach to potential players. And those players are still going to potentially spend money in your game regardless of what the general mechanic is. And the other thing is, if we reach this point of having Pro League and like pro players and bigger tournaments, because, Kawa is not going to be the only person hosting creator clashes in the future, right? There's no fucking way. Second Dinner is going to have to get in on that action and be like, we could raise some money for this and get eyes on it and get more players, more exposure, and have a pro scene. There's no way they use just basic battle mode as the entire thing. I refuse to believe that. Battle mode's fantastic, but they've got to spice it up in some way. And I talked about sideboards and stuff like that in my recent video. I do want to ask you guys how you think about that, about sideboards and like a best of 3 mode. I come from Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's like the bread and butter of all their card games, having multiple matches. And I feel like that's a better representation of like who the better deck is. Because sometimes you just go into a matchup where it's like, well, fuck, half their deck counters what I'm doing. If I'm a destroy deck going against a Cosmo armor whatever deck, right?
Yeah. Did you see that, Drew? The whole sideboard conversation?
I think that'd be great. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty rad. I mean, I feel like they're going to get there. I feel like there's going to be all kinds of formats when they do tournaments and stuff like that. I feel like that's inevitable, and I'm here for it. I really like that in those best of 3 formats and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, once I saw the battle mode come out, I'm like, it looks like they've set it up where there will be different modes and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work on a cell phone with the sideboard. Like, would you like in between games, would it just like pop up a new screen or something?
Did you watch that video I did, Chris?
I did, and it looked like it was widescreen, like on a computer.
That was on my phone. The arena. That was Arena's playing on the phone. It just goes sideways. That's it. And if they're working on a widescreen UI for Steam to come out, they should just give you an option on your phone to be like also switch to widescreen on the phone, because it would work the same way, wouldn't it? You can choose your perspective, or at the very least during siding and sideboarding, it pulls up your it just pulls up like the same way the collection works. Like you have your deck at the top, collection, but it's just 4 cards. Here's your sideboard. Swap them, and then we go to next battle. Like it wouldn't be hard to do from a UI perspective, especially if they introduce the widescreen mode.
Yeah, I do like that idea, because the day battle mode came out, like I was playing against my son. We were in California, just a little vacation, and like he just had decks that countered exactly what I was doing, and I was like, well, this is a waste of my time. You know what I mean? Because now it's just like I'm locked in as you just completely destroy me, But to finish up this conversation on Infinite, I'm curious, like the positive side of it, Drew, like because you mess around with decks, experiment and stuff. Like, I've seen just a lot of my audience stressing about Infinite. Like, I made a video about the struggle, right? Like, do you have people who appreciate that you're just, like, messing around, trying different decks, and they have a little like, freedom to do the same?
Yeah.
It's one of the best content I can watch. I love watching shitty decks. It's way more entertaining than watching fucking 30-power Red Skull, 30-power Taskmaster every other match. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people do appreciate it. And it's funny. You can get caught up in the negative, but they're so few and far between. It's the positivity and the support that is always there, and I really do appreciate all of that. And I think a lot of people do like to see different cards being played as well, and just experimenting with different decks, not stressing about games too much. Like sometimes like I'll lose like 8 cubes, and if I'm laughing about it, like people can think, oh, you know what? Like maybe I won't smash my phone the next time 8 cubes are lost, like or something along those lines, right? Like maybe I shouldn't take it too much to heart, and because it's very tilting. It's just, but you just gotta let it be. It's gonna happen. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I actually want to give a special little shout out while I can to someone that I think is such a sleeper pick in terms of doing different decks in almost every video and is infinite every season. That's Milky Snap.
I love that dude.
Boot, yeah. Dude, he's so smart. I've been watching him since like his channel started, and he always does different decks. He's hit infinite every time. He experiments with all kinds of like new ideas, and yet he's just a very, very smart and good player. So, and he shows his losses and all that stuff and breaks them down. And anyways, I just want to shout him out because he's like somebody who does variety but gets there. Actually, still manages to get there.
Milky was the first content creator I found when my buddy was like, "Hey, check out this game, Marvel Snap." I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And he showed me Milky, and like, yeah, Milky Snap for sure. He does off meta decks, and he succeeds with them too. And like, I do hope everybody checks him out. Like and like you said, he doesn't overhype them or anything like that. He'll show his thought process while playing. Like, phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah. If we're gonna shout people out, I want to shout out I can't remember the full name, but Lobster. You know what I'm talking about?
Fresh Lobster.
Fresh Lobster has the amazing mustache. Oh, dude, he must spend an hour getting that thing perfect every single day, and I salute him for that. That is a fucking phenomenal mustache. But he also plays really interesting, cool off-meta decks, and also hits infinite a lot. So, like, cool, good for him. I love it. I love content like that. Again, I don't want to watch Red Skull be 30 power, Taskmaster be 30 power every single time. Yeah. I can do that myself. I can just go play.
I sasked my audience about that. I'm like, what do you guys want me to do? You guys want me to just play Shuri, Red Skull, and Thanos and just keep making videos on that? I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to experiment. I want to discuss and stuff like that. But yeah, so last topic, we got new cards. Which one do you want to talk about first, Brad?
Oh, I got the list pulled up. We'll do it in order. We'll start with the season pass card, Nimrod. The one you guys have zero knowledge on as Marvel fans in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sure 95% of the audience is in the same boat. We're not going to talk about lore. We're not going to talk about where he comes from. He's a 5/5. When he just gets destroyed, he puts copies of himself in the other lanes. Drew, I'm going to start with you because you talked about him in the recent video you did with best season pass cards I watched literally an hour before we went live. And I was like, I already know what number 1 is, because there's one card that I've seen you gush about over and over and over and over again being wave. And I'm like, I don't even have to fucking click on this video. But I saw Nimrod at like 8 or 9.
I think I had him at 6, actually. I think I might have been the middle. Yeah, and honestly, I only put him there because I haven't played with him, so how could I give him a truly high rating if I don't know the card's true value? So I try to put him in the middle somewhere. I think he's actually going to be pretty good. The more I think about it, the more I'm growing on Nimrod. Like, people are telling me all these combos. It does actually work pretty well. It's just the biggest thing for me is it's a telegraphed armor play. Like, you play Nimrod on 5 on curve, if that's the most ideal line, and then turn 6, I think there's just a meta that people adapt to where they hold their armor in hand for that turn 6, play it at the Nimrod location, and your turn 6 is a bust. And now it's not like the Bucky Barnes Carnage combo, like you just lost a cube because you retreat because your Bucky Barnes got armored, right? Now it's turn 6, I'm trying to Arnim Zola my Nimrod or whatever else, and I can't because armor came down and completely denied me. And that's going to be like 4 or 8 cubes. So I feel like that might be an issue, like just where it is, like as a 5 cost. But Galactus is actually pretty cracked. If you can get that Nimrod buffed up, a surprise turn 6 Galactus is pretty wild. Destroyer even. Somebody mentioned Destroyer would be pretty good. Throw a Destroyer there with the Bucky Barnes out and whatnot. Cool. And then you get all this crazy. Yeah, right? Like the more it's popping up, even Venom on the Nimrod, and then Carnage in off location. So the on reveal of Venom eats up the Nimrod, it copies elsewhere, and then Carnage eats that one, the copy, and then more copies spew out. Like it could get pretty wild. So I'm a hype for it. Destroy is kind of my archetype. Like you were saying, I gush about Wave, Death Wave. That's probably my go-to deck of all time. So I'm pretty excited about it.
I have to ask before we go to the next card though, and before Chris gives his opinion, I have to interject. Do you think Wave should be changed where it's just flat 4 no matter what? Stop with the Arrow, She-Hulk, Death thing. Like, where are you on that? You have a bias. So keep in mind, you think people judge you for not hitting infinite. They're going to fucking judge you for what you say in the next 3 seconds.
Yeah,
choose your words carefully.
I will stand by Wave and say that we can leave that interaction because, I don't know, it's different.
My issue is, I don't think it should affect the opponent. I don't think it should affect the opponent. That's where I'm just like, fuck this card, right? Like when you're not set up for a wave play and then all my cards are for, like it's a kind of cool disruption, but like the payoff for the person playing it and the way it disrupts the other player. What are your thoughts on that, Drew? You think that's fair? You think that's good in a good place?
That's the most rough part, right? That turn 5 wave, and then your opponent, like you have 2 deaths in hand, maybe from Moon Girl or whatever, and then you got your arrow and Happy Days, whereas your opponent's like, oh, I really hope my Magneto wins this. Like, oh, no, you should probably have retreated. That would be a reasonable change. I'd rather them take that route, or even if they have to nerf her power, nerf her energy even, but leave the death discount intact, because I just find that a pretty interesting combo. I mean, it is Death Wave. Like,
we have to change the name
because of it. Yeah, it's like, oh no, my deck. But you know what? Really quickly, I'm actually pretty cool with any changes they decide to make, because again, I just feel like it freshens up the game, and whatever, we'll adapt and find a new way to play that card or something. So, except for Leader, he's dead. But otherwise,
For me, for Nimrod, I like Drew. I saw some people just coming up with some interesting things. But yeah, like it does seem like it'll get countered pretty quickly. I don't know. We saw a decent run of MODOK, right? Like MODOK, when it first came out, people were using it. Not enough people were countering it, and maybe people weren't countering it because everybody's going to be using it so much, so you're not going to want to counter your own Nimrod. So I think at the beginning will be interesting. I do think we're going to see it a lot in Galactus decks. Personally, I'm the opposite of Drew. Like, Destroy is just my least favorite. I feel like whenever I try a Destroy deck, just none of my cards that actually destroy something ever come out. I'm just sitting with like a 2-1 Bucky and just nonsense. Yeah. But I will mess around with the card at least for a week until the next cards we're going to discuss come out, which I really want. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Brad? Or are you just like, meh?
On Kitty Pryde?
No, on Nimrod, then Kitty Pryde.
Oh. I mean, Nimrod's cool. I like the Galactus thing the most. That's probably my favorite idea about it. But I'm also like, I don't want to see more Galactus, because Though I give respect to the players that like disguise the Galactus decks. They don't do the traditional like here's like wave or electro. I like that flavor of Galactus where it's like it's on turn 6. But now if you see Nimrod, you're gonna be like, oh, it's a fucking Galactus deck. Like I don't know, like Nimrod's really cool, but I'm worried that that's where he's gonna go the most. And like I don't want to see more of this. It's boring.
Turn 5 Magic, turn 6 Nimrod, turn 6. Oh no, that wouldn't quite work on. I'd have to ramp into something there. But I was thinking that just the classic, you limbo a location and then you Galactus so that it gets destroyed, and then it's like I was gonna set up for the last turn. I was trying to mix in Nimrod in there.
You could do wave on 3, Nimrod on 4, Magic on 5, that kind of thing. Or Psylocke on 3.
Somebody will figure something out. All right,
we need a Zabu for 5 costs. All right, that's what we need.
Yeah,
right. But what do you think about Kitty Pryde? I'm curious. You seem pretty hyped about it.
So I said this on Twitter. Here's my philosophy, right? There's 2 kind of cards I spend tokens on outside of just I need to make some content, right? One is a good card. The other one is a card that goes in a deck that I have fun with. Bounce decks are my favorite decks, my absolute favorite. And since they've officially announced that you can pull Kitty back on demand, right? You don't need to trigger it with like a fucking Beast or Falcon. Absolutely 1,000% getting Kitty. I don't know how big it'll be, but also my son and I are stoked for Hitmonkey to come out, which is going to be even better, So the second Kitty comes out, and they're finally doing that update. Did you guys see where you're going to get the new card in your shop? So for us whales who got the tokens, she'll be there waiting for me.
Heads up on that, Chris. He actually commented later on that it's going to be delayed a month, so it won't be until April does that come into effect. I know. I was like, no, Kitty Pryde. So you might not see Kitty Pryde right away, and you also might want to wait 20, 30 minutes apparently after the card.
Yeah, no shit, man.
These delays.
I was so mad. I was so mad. Like any other day. So for those who don't know, so when Kang came out, if you were looking at your shop, he would not appear. But if you like loaded the game later, he might have been there. But yeah, any other day, I was watching a streamer. I was like, oh, cool. Because I'm usually working and I'll just check it later. But that month, and that sucks. It'll be delayed a month. So pray for me to get Kitty Pryde. But I've been messing around with a bounce deck. I just made a video about it. It's like bounce, but it also has like Darkhawk in it. So like that's kind of like a surprise thing that comes out. But I think Kitty will be dope. I love bounce decks because it is hard. It is so hard for the opponent to know what you're doing, right? Like, have you guys ever played a bounce deck where someone drops Killmonger, but you have priority and drop Falcon and just swoop up all your 1 costs? Oh, it feels so nice. It feels so nice. Oh, so good. But yeah, so I'm stoked for Kitty. It'll be interesting to see how buff she gets. I know you were talking about before we knew what Kitty did. Are you more excited for Kitty, less excited now that we know how she works?
Well hold on. We have audio listeners, Chris. Hold on.
Oh, whoops.
Kitty Pryde is a 1/0 that you can return to your hand and gain +2 power. Sorry. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm letting you do your thing. I know you're very passionate. I'm like, okay. But we have audio listeners only on Spotify and stuff that don't see this. Right?
I guess they need to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I guess that's what they need to do. Right?
Amazing plug. Subscribe to all of our YouTube channels. There we go. Perfect.
There you go. All right. Lay it on me, Drew. What do you think?
Okay, I feel so vindicated.
Camera's dead.
Oh, don't worry about that. I know. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
We'll put a drawing of you up.
There we go. I feel so vindicated that they announce how she actually works, because I made a data mine video a long time ago, and I didn't even consider that you wouldn't be able to play her and return her to the hand in the same turn. I thought that was just a given based on the text. And everybody in the comment section was like, that's definitely 100% not how she's going to work. Ooh. You're going to only be able to play her and then return her the next turn, and she'll end up being like a 3-4 at the end of the day once you've played her, returned her. And I was like, okay, I see it. I get you. Like, I understand how that could work, but it still doesn't feel 100% to me. I feel like it could go either way. And then I did a new video talking about it, and then I was like, you know what? They announced the card. I'm posting this on Twitter. I want to see what happens. And everyone started blowing it up and asking all the devs these questions, tagging them in all kinds of things. And finally they responded. And just like Boot was saying, it's every single turn, which is so much more exciting. I don't know about you, but like I probably would have passed if it was the other way. Mm-hmm. And now that I know she works that way, the combinations with Angela, Bishop are just crazy. Beast, I imagine that if you Beast her back to hand, typically the discounts from Beast stay.
Yeah, like Deadpool
So
is a great. If you're playing Deadpool decks, I'm telling you, please play Beast. It's fucking awesome.
Right. Yeah, that's a great combo. So there you go. So then if Kitty Pryde's free every turn, because the only disruption that I see with Kitty Pryde, if I could look at a downside, is that in our curve, you're planning out your curve for your 2, 3, 4, 5 drops, but now you're almost like down in energy every turn because you're trying to set up your Kitty Prydes and stack that way. So your energy management is going to be that much more difficult. It might disrupt yourself if you're trying to do that every turn, but you have the option. So it's such a cool card. I can't wait to play around it. I think I'm actually with Boo. I'm going to pick it up day one if I can, if it shows up in my shop.
That's what I'm talking. And see, that's where I'm excited because you're going to experiment. I'm just going to be watching like a hawk. What about you? What about you, Brad? You getting Kitty? What are your thoughts?
Not until she goes down to 4 or 3. I'm going to be honest.
Guy.
Like I think she's cool. I think bounce decks are one of the decks I have probably the most fun playing. I also lose the most with bounce decks. I feel, because like there are certain things like, but no, you make a good point, Drew, with Angela and Bishop. That's where Kitty Pryde was really going to shine, especially with Hitmonkey around the corner too. Then I'll be like, okay, we're on the bounce train. Let's do it. Right. But before that, I don't know, like they're Shuri, the 30 power thing, or even 20 power She-Hulk. It seems a bit harder to beat those big power outputs that even like Devil Dino, something as simple as that, can be a bit harder. In bounce decks, you're very good at going wide and having solid power everywhere, but when you go against those decks, I'm a little worried that they're a bit too power intensive to kind of combat. But I think she's really cool. I'm glad you can pull her back every turn, and Beast is gonna be a really cool combo with her, especially with Angela and Bishop, like Drew said. So I'll get her eventually. If I pull her, I'll be happy. But I need way more convincing to grab her. I'm probably not gonna grab any of these at Series 5, to be honest.
Really? What's the next card on the list? What's the next Series 5?
The next Series 5 card is Negasonic Teenage Warhead, the greatest fucking superhero name to ever exist. You can fuck off if you have any other opinions on that. I do not care. Best name ever. One of the coolest people ever. And really cool card. Really cool. Why don't
you explain to us how it works so I don't botch that?
Negasonic Teenage Warhead is incorrectly listed on Marvel Snap Zone as a 3/2. She is a 3/4 that says after any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. And I love that Marvel Snap is like, we got to capitalize and, right? So it's and, all caps. That's amazing. She's fucking sick. Like, Nimrod's a really cool combo. She matches with like destroy decks in general. She's also just like a kind of like a temporary rickety bridge against your opponent. You can play like on turn 5. Like you're gonna play here. You sure? You want to fuck around? I'm excited for her.
You're not picking up for 6K.
I don't think any of these. I don't think Kang and Darkhawk are the only two I'll ever say were worth at the time of them being in Pool 5 were worth the 6,000. I don't think any other card is going to be able to actually match that. I really don't. And that's the biggest problem with Series 5. I can't justifiably be like, yeah, 6,000. Do it.
Yeah, until we get more tokens. What about well, Drew? You love Destroy. What are your thoughts on the Negasonic?
Oh, dude, I cannot wait. This card. This is going to be an expensive month for me. Let me tell you. I'm pretty hyped for this one as well. Actually, Ben Brody even tweeted that this is his favorite card, and he gets to play with all the new stuff, all the Deadmind stuff. So that's pretty neat that he loves it. I'm pretty excited. I love that it has the flexibility of being a control card or also being your activator for things like Nimrod or stuff like that, right? Like, just like you make the choice, but hopefully you do, right? You want priority in this situation. Probably the worst card ever with Ghost, because if your opponent has priority, they can throw out that cheap thing in their hand they don't care for, probably at this current meta, a stone, an Infinity Stone or whatever, and then eat up that Destroyer in your Negasonic, and then the value might drop off. It's interesting, like Brad said, that it was a 3/2 and it got buffed to a 3/4 from the Datamine version, because now, even if it does get destroyed, just like in that means with an Infinity Stone, if you're running a null deck, that's just free power.
Yeah,
like that's a nice bonus. So and 3/4, I don't feel too bad throwing that out there and controlling a lane. So I feel like the power level of this card is pretty high.
I like the idea of Mr. I just thought of Professor X. Like if you play this like a turn late on turn 4, and you're like basically telling them it's a warning, like hey, don't play here, kind of thing. And your opponent might be inclined to like not. And you play on a lane where you're just like they're not. It's empty already, and they don't want to play there. And you just Professor X over her and steal a lane on turn 5. It's kind of like the rescue thing, but less telegraphed. I feel like that's kind of cool. I want to try that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I need everybody to realize. This card is not listed as an on reveal or ongoing. Do you know how fucking amazing that is? Like, I was not excited about this card. I'm like, this card's lame. I don't care. I hate destroy decks. But I feel to push back on you, Brad. I think this might be a meta shifting card. Like, think about it. Think about the Shuri decks. Oh, you're going to Cosmo? Well, here, let me just drop Teenage Warhead right here on your Cosmo lane. I dare you to fucking put down a 30 power Red Skull. You know what I mean? Because it's going to blow up either way. So the only thing that'll protect it, I guess, would be armor. So if they dropped it on armor, but if you were able to, if you had Prio and you dropped it down there, like, will it work on the same turn? Do we know?
No, because the wording won't work, right? Because it says after a card is played here. So if I play her first, and then my opponent, we play at the same time, right? The way the game works. So before she's flipped, they've already technically played the card, so that play activation doesn't trigger her. It has to be the turn after she's already on board.
So it might not work as well on the Red Skull play, but like when people delay to turn 6 and do the She-Hulk Taskmaster, you know what I mean? Taking out one of those. But I do think this is cool, or like Drew was saying, like it can be a control card or an activator, you know what I mean? And I am kind of stoked because I've been... Like, I spent 6,000 on Null when I got that free Galactus, but I'm like, cool. Now I can get a little bit more creative and slip Null in some more decks, you know, because then maybe I do like some kind of weird Shuri deck with Teenage Warhead and Null, like buff up my own Red Skull, blow it up, surprise you with a Null. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of cool things that you could do with this card. And yeah, like Drew was saying, this is going to be an expensive month for me. I was like, there's only one card I want, and now I want all 3 of these fuckers.
Another sneaky one that I think would be really fun, I don't know how good it's going to be with this card, is in a move deck where you use like Heimdall. So you don't play Heimdall at the Teenage Negasonic Warhead location, but it moves her to the left. And then if your opponent played a card there, you'll destroy that. So they were thinking, okay, I see the Warhead at that location. I'm not going to play there. I'll play elsewhere. But then you shift it on the last turn or something like that if you have Prio. Or also Cloak, you like set up a Cloak, and then your opponent doesn't know, oh, geez, are they going to move it over there or not? Because I don't know, I'm feeling scared to play anywhere right now. It'd be kind of sneaky.
You got me all excited. I love it. Yeah. No, it's so weird. I just did not give a single fuck about this card. And then just recently I was like, you know what? This card's going to be amazing. So it'll be a buy, as well as our final card. What is it, Brad?
Master Mold. It is a 2/2. On reveal, add 2 Sentinel to your opponent's hand. This is the card I'm unironically the most hyped for, because I think Ronin is such a cool card, and I want to see him be an effective deck. And I think this actually is a card that could make Ronin a viable deck, because I like the idea of like doing Wong stuff with the Master Mold, like Wong, Master Mold, like have Wong established, play Ronin, and then like turn 6 go like Maximus and Master Mold on Wong, fill their hand up, and kind of hopefully guarantee that win with the lane that you're in. Probably a Sunspot in there to kind of like float a few turns alongside the other lanes, something like that. I'm really excited for this card. I'm bummed that it's 6,000. I see that this card feels like a Series 3 card to me, and like that's just like the power level it feels like. And I can't justify spending that much for it, but I'm really tempted to. And it's probably unironically the worst investment of 6,000 out of the 3 that we're talking about in terms of meta defining cards, right? But it's the most fun, goddammit. I want to play it.
yeah, for sure. What about you, Drew?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. It seems really fun, and I like those decks. They can be a lot of fun, and the combinations Brad just mentioned are fantastic. I just feel like unless you can get it to be out of hand, I feel like it's not going to work out all that much. I mean, here's an instance as well, right? If your opponent already has 6 cards in their hand, you're only giving them 1 Sentinel, so that's already diminished return. And then also, maybe what if they are an aggro deck that wants to play a lot of cards? You're actually helping them fill out their curve, because maybe I only had a 1-drop on my, like, I don't know, let's say actually it's turn 5. I have a 3-drop in hand. You gave me Sentinel. I can now play a Sentinel and my 3-drop. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to play that Sentinel. It would have been just a 3-drop. So you almost give me power. And the minute I play 1 Sentinel and it's not hurting my draw, I've already exceeded the power to cost that you invested by playing Master Mold for a 2/2. So the disruption absolutely can be there for sure. But I don't know, like, just like Brad was saying, like, there's just these other cards seem a little bit more powerful, and for the cost of all these new cards, this one's a pass for me.
Yeah. I like, this is one of the ones that I think it just falls into my fun category, where I'm just like, yeah, like, I've been looking for a reason to play Ronin. What was it? We had a location last season where, oh, no. It was Asgard was the hot location, right? And I was like, oh, I'm going to use, they're going to want to draw cards. I'm going to play Ronin. And I was like trying to do stuff. It just wasn't really working out. I, too, have wanted to play Ronin. I think, like, Drew, you just kind of bummed me out about the card. Like, I might be helping him. I don't like that. But, like, just, not even just wrong, but, like, absorbing man, right? Like, if they do, like, dump their hand and then you're able to just fill it up with Sentinels, like, I like messing with the other person's hand. Like, I love playing Black Widow, you know what I mean? And, like, clogging up their, so they're not pulling a draw. So if you could fill it up, but now I'm like, oh man, how many different decks am I gonna help with this? So I'll be the guinea pig. I will be getting the card just because, like, I want to mess with people. And I think against certain decks, it will be fun. But now I'm thinking, like, against other decks, they're going to just say thank you and maybe snap me even after, you know, when you do that? Like have you ever done like a leech on someone and then they snap you and you're like, you son of a bitch. You just give them like an infinite or something. So, yeah, I do think it's probably the weakest of them. But it'll be fun. In certain occasions, I'm going to have a blast with it.
I think the moral of this conversation is just that we need to buff Ronin. I do mean that in an actually a genuine way, because Ronin is the polar opposite of Devil Dino. It's a 5/3, but it's just your opponent's hand, and relying on what your opponent does is always the worst thing. Giving your opponent the avenue of choice in any card game makes a card way worse. And being able to control it yourself is the thing. And these cards go a long way to help that. But maybe Ronin should be a 5/2 +3 every time.
Something.
Okay, so hold on then. When did you guys start playing Snap?
I did in the
release.
Symbiote Invasion. Oh, geez. So yeah, around
Global
the same
release,
time then.
Brad?
Yeah,
So around the
release.
same time?
I was playing Magic. So
right before, you guys basically just missed when Ronin was one of the best cards in the game.
Oh,
It
tell
was
us.
actually
Story
broken,
time.
And he got nerfed. Yeah, so the deck right up until global release, it got nerfed pretty hard, was a negative deck, and Ronin at the time was +3 power for every card in your opponent's hand, but he also had 0 power by default. So he was negatized.
okay, well, don't make him 0 power.
Yeah. Isn't that funny
Stop.
how his lower power was a buff? But he was crazy because you just a few other combos, you know, obviously the Iron Man or whatever, but you negatize Ronin and it's 0, 5 with +3 power for every card in your opponent's hand. It was crazy. So that deck was everywhere. It was the Mr. Negative month, and then they nerfed it. Right
Wasn't Negative
release.
still a 4/4 at that point, or was he a 4-1 already?
Actually, no, he was a 4/1. So he had 2 series of nerfs. He went from 4/4 to 4/1 to 4-1.
I know some of the lore, Drew. I just, I wasn't around to live it.
Back in those days.
I like to talk about it because some people might be joining the game in the last month or so, and they see certain cards and think they're broken or they should be changed, or maybe that they're weak and they should be adjusted. And it's like, well, there's actually a history to a lot of them. Like, and they've gone places. Like Nakia is the most changed card in Snap. I believe she's been changed 4 or 5 times.
Really?
Varying levels. Yeah, she used to be one of the most broken cards. She used to give +2 power to each card in your hand.
Oh.
That was on reveal, just +2 the entire hand. It was crazy. Okoye used to be one of the most broken ones when she was a 1/1 that would give +2 to your deck. Crazy.
Huh.
Crazy. Yeah, so it's fun to talk about them and see how they've come. But I agree, Ronin should get something because he's not good right now.
Yeah,
even if he was good in October.
Yeah, what Brad was just saying, that's what I like, because I've tried Ronin a million times. I remember Binks made that deck and it got really popular. I went up against it a few times, like had like Wave and Maximus, and I was just like Brad was saying, when they're in control of how much power you're going to have, nah, you know. So I'm hoping Master Mold helps that out a little bit, but I don't know. When I get it, I'll make some videos and we'll see if I wasted 6,000 tokens. But I'm a thick-headed mofo, so that's why I'm still trying to figure out how to make Shadow King work. And I'll do the same with Master Mold. All right, but yeah, let's wrap this thing up, Brad. What do we got?
We have the guest, the shining star of this episode. Like, what the fuck you mean, what do we have? Drew, do a better job than what you did in the opening and pitch yourself. Tell yourself that you're the best ever. Go in the mirror and be like, I'm the fucking best YouTuber on this goddamn thing. This is why you should sub to me.
Where can we find
you,
Drew?
Oh, man, that's not my MO. I'm all about being quiet and then just knowing it, walking around knowing that.
That's a true boss move.
Yeah, exactly. So no, just doing the YouTube thing, man. I'm just doing a bunch of content. We got the custom cars, the science videos, everything Snap. Actually, I'll let you guys know a cool little series that I haven't announced. Yeah, that I'm going to be doing pretty quickly. It's something I did a while ago and people loved it. But now that I've grown up a little bit as a channel, I'm bringing it back. It's going to be a Snap Lock. I'm pretty excited about it. What it is that I'm going to start a new account from collection level 1. And all the cards that I acquire have lives. So if I lose a game, I'm going to spin a wheel, and the card in my deck is going to die. I can't use it for the rest of that run. And if I run out of cards, then I lose the run. If I make it to infinite, I win, and I'm just going to keep going until we get there.
Dang. I'm tuning in. I like it, Drew.
I kind of want to do that as like a battle mode. That sounds really fun, especially like if you know your opponent.
Yeah, that could work as battle mode.
Spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So anyways, that's where we're going.
Yeah, and Drew's also on Twitter, so we're going to link that down below, always asking fun questions and stuff like that. So Drew is an excellent follow.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Boot and Brad, both of you. It was
Happy
awesome.
to have you on.
It's good talking to you and meeting you both as well. It's awesome. Even though you can't see me right now. I'm trying to fix my camera.
You're there in spirit. I believe in you. Yeah. I believe in Drew. But that's going to do it for us here today. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at Bradsford channel. Bradsford. You can find Chris at the channel you're literally watching right now. Everything's in the description on Spotify if you're somehow just listening. And of course, same thing on Twitter. It's something different. It's your actual name, isn't it, on Twitter? Oh, he's back. Oh, my God. He lives the third day. Chris, what's your Twitter?
Oh, my Twitter. Sorry, I was just so shocked when I saw that beautiful Drew face again. I'm at BootmanMSTZ. We'll link it down below. But yeah, follow me on Twitter because I do season pass giveaways, and the new one is going to be announced probably the time this episode goes up. So yeah, make sure you follow me on Twitter. That's the only way to get in. So follow me.
All right, and we love you guys. We appreciate the constructive feedback, the support, whatever it is. You can yell at us in the comments about our takes. You can praise us. You can go visit Drew's channel, more importantly, and hype him up as one of the best content creators on Marvel Snap right now because I truly love him. And you were the first Snap creator I started watching. So give him some support.
That's pretty cool.
He's great.
Appreciate that, man.
And until next week or the week after, however we order these, we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.
See you guys.